employers use it to replace the full-time employees, because they're trying to lower the cost of work, so they will better employ students and therefore save money and not pay for his social benefits or anything else. So basically, and how does the student organizing come in? So you have this sum of money that is paid to you by your employer, and then the employer has to pay an extra percentage. And this percentage goes to student organizing, it goes to the student service that actually provides the information, and it goes to the fund for scholarships, and it goes to the fund for building student dorms. So actually, this has resulted in the fact that Ivan mentioned before, that our student organization, at least at our university, has 4.5 million euros per year to spend. So, so you can imagine that the student organization has really no interest to fight for student rights on that field, because obviously it's financed from the very anomaly on the job market that exists. And also this sum of money has become the main reason why student organizing is so dysfunctional in Slovenia, because of course it attracts groups with capitalist interests. But I'll talk about this further on. But there's also one paradox, because at the same time the student work is an anomaly on the job market, at the same time it's also a social corrective for the students who can't afford to be, for example, sponsored by their parents to study, so they have to work so they can pay for their housing, food, etc. But you have to know that, the maximum pay for students, I think, is 5 euros per hour. So it's really, and the employer can call you at any time, and you can basically work as a regular employee, but without any workers' rights. So, and this is like one field that the student organization should fight for, and for example, for every student to have a scholarship so that they can actually study, but that is not the case. And I'll also ask my colleagues if there's something to add.
Maybe if you just add something about the student services.
Oh yeah, student services. Yeah. Okay. So this word is organizational forms that provided information and were kind of a contact between the employer and the students. And at first they were in the domain of student organization, but later on, because there was lack of control, the number increased. So that meant that there were a lot of unregistered student services. And in the past 10 years, I think most of them, or all of them were privatized. So basically, the student organization has no control over this distribution. So just quickly to explain, so at the moment we have Student Organization of Slovenia, which means that it has 3 representatives for each university in Slovenia. It has 1 representative for vocational colleges and 1 that's representative for local student organizations. And so this is like this huge cover organization that also should collaborate with the government and negotiate and try to gain improvement on the fields such as higher education, scholarships, residence, etc. And also actively participate, in this state policies when it comes to this. But it's not really active. For example, it just presented a new law that would regulate the student work, and we have seen the proposition, and it's really just, it even decreases the current rights. So it has done little for the students in the past 10 years. So if I go to this current organization of our University of Ljubljana, it's a little bit the same as the system we described. So at the moment it kind of works as a government. You have the Maybe this one, okay. Okay. So you have this student assembly, I'll just say assembly. You have the presidency, and you have like different ministries, like for social rights, etc. And then you have this local
Local student organizations.
Local.
Higher faculty.
So it's like faculty, and then you also have, you know, this supervisory, the Senate and the voting organ,
The electoral commission.
and this one, prosecution, and the higher court, Supreme Court. So how does this work? So on each faculty, you elect a representative that goes to the student assembly or parliament. Maybe it's a better expression to the parliament. So what happens here is that, you know, these people who are representatives, usually they are just, you know, popular people at the faculty. You know, they just want to, you know, have some money to organize projects, and they don't really care, you know, what happens in the student parliament. There are some. It also works in the system of that you have parliamentary groups, but usually these groups are just interest groups and are often influenced not by parties but companies. Like you would have a company, like for alcohol drinks, and it would make a deal with you. It will give you finances for your campaign, and later on, when you are elected, you will make sure that it will be your official, official associate, you know. So this is, you see how the money is being drained. So actually, then you have these representatives, and of course, they are the ones who decide about the budget. It's a bit the same as you described. But of course, a lot of them don't really care about this, you know, the larger student interest. You know, they just want to organize projects on their local faculties, such as parties or like really small projects, and they don't really care, or they either just, you know, vote as they are told to. So so when the election is over, you form a coalition who also then elects the presidency, suggests it, and also all the ministers are from coalition, and they also put people in the Senate, in this election supervisory, in the prosecution. So basically this is the only autonomous structure, because here are actually appointed law students who are suggested by the mentor and the law faculty. So
maybe you should clarify what each of these organs are.
Yeah. So the election structure just supervises the election so that everything is just goes smoothly. The Senate is sort of like the first level of
first degree court.
First degree court, yeah, and the prosecution tries to gain information about the suspicious projects and gives this information to the court. But basically, you know, you have people appointed from the coalition here. Okay, there are some from the opposition, but mostly, you know, you have your own people supervising you. So I think we can well assume how this supervisory works. So basically, you know, this whole structure really became dysfunctional at the moment, because with a budget of 4.5 million euros, which will decrease in the following years because of this cuts and the commissions are lowering, etc. You can imagine that a lot of money is just being drained from the organization. So that this basically means that you have fictitious projects, Or just for example, there was one project of like going to Canada to meet the students there who fight the battle, but basically it was just a trip for the people here. So because they are the only ones who know about the project usually, you know. For example, somebody here suggests, okay, we should go and connect with students abroad, and they say, okay, great idea. They find their own provider, and they say it was the best one on the market, it was the cheapest, so we chose that one. And they inform their friends, okay, we have 10 positions open, and they say great, so then they go to Canada and have fun, and really, this is how the money is just being drained out of the organization. I mean, like Leo, who is right now gaining data for the past 4 years about these transactions, can tell you that there's really like, I don't know, how many thousand euros for just for copies.
Yeah, they pay like 40,000 euros for photocopies per month.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, you can imagine that even the numbers just seem so suspicious, but this is what we're dealing with right now. And so you can see that, you know, the representatives don't really have an interest to fight for students' rights. They are completely alienated from the base, like there is no connection. I mean, there are connections from local projects, which are mostly parties or, I don't know, donate blood or like for like students of medicine or something, but it's nothing critical, it's nothing really transformational, it's just, you know, extracurricular activities basically. So, you know, and the only time this structure, the superstructure has a contact with the base is during the elections. And then you won't hear anything for the next 2 years. And also, you know, because of this alienation from its base and because it just got engaged with how to drain these resources, it has lost all the legitimacy to even represent students or to fight their battles. So this is sort of where we come in. If there's something I have to add at this point before I go to our organization. I'm just asking if there's something to add. Okay. So this is like the main situation that kind of drove Iskra to be formed. You know, as we have already said, we do not represent our social organization because we are the reason why it is the reason why we were formed as such. But we do have a small opposition parliamentary group, so we try to block decisions, etc. Okay, so Iskra, which means spark, was formed during last summer, and it combines the experience of different activist groups from before, and it also came from the realization that if we don't have an organized movement, we are just left to our own spontaneous self-initiative, or we're just waiting, you know, for the strikes from the government, and then we respond. But that's not sufficient. That's not enough to actually have a powerful movement and to actually make a change. So that was the realization, and led to the formation of Iskra, which is now a democratic progressive students organization with members on almost each faculty in University of Ljubljana. There are 30 faculties, and I think that none of the organizations before was able to reach to all the students, because usually you would have activist groups from like humanistic studies or social studies, but not like, for example, physics or engineering, or, I mean, it was not really common in the past years. So in Iskra, our main goal is to maintain and improve the situation of students and young people, and to preserve the welfare state. We're also critical of the current socio-economic system, which we believe does not have the answers for the current crisis of young people and in general. We also have our own democratic structures, which I don't think is really important to. I mean, we do have we have a governing board, which is elected each year. So we did have this sort of like central structure. Then we have a council, which has members from each faculty as representatives, and we also have these local cells. Okay, sounds a bit like terroristic cells. Yeah. And also, you know, really, we have really tried to engage in different things. We have our newsletter. We have different theoretical groups that engage themselves in feminism, environmental protection, higher education, and you know, depending on situation, we have working teams that try to put together a protest or design a new web page, and everything is just voluntarily. So nothing. We're financed from our yearly contribution, and the lowest is €5. So if we're lucky, we kind of get around. We have now 170 members. So, but then none of them really pays regularly. So. Okay, so just to finish about our projects, we also have this seminar that I mentioned before. We started this year, and also it's also the fact that that the current situation in Slovenia is that the student population is perceived as passive and disinterested, but we don't believe that this is like a state that is already given, but it's the fact that this superstructure stopped to inform students about what's going on and stopped searching contact and their consent of what they're doing. And from our experiences, it's when somebody is well informed, he's also willing to participate and willing to discuss things and willing to make a change. So I think I will stop at this point.
Maybe you can talk about referendum first.
I think Matej will explain that. No?
Yeah. Well, what is really important to stress is that like the key points when Iskra was formed, the key point was that pure activism doesn't help, and if you like really want more global scale action, you need continuous action, and you need to enter the structure itself. So just by criticizing the structure from the streets didn't help, and it also caused the previous student movements to like fall apart in a few months. So the first like key point was we needed to enter the structure in order to transform it into something that would fight for the students' rights or fight for like a more global idea. And the second point is that the student movement needs itself a structure. It needs something which enables a continuous action, and it needs a highly democratical action. So all the members have to be able to get information about what the decisions are being discussed, and all the members have to be included into the decision-making process. So this was like the first biggest problem we faced was how to organize in order to be really democratic, in order to like enable a wide range of students to in a radical and a progressive movement. So, yeah.
I mean, also Iskra, it's based on this mentality that all the actions have to be approved by all the members. I mean, it's not okay. We do have a board that sort of coordinates the actions, but I mean, we have to gain the most possible consent for the actions to actually be executed. Because also this that we are presenting this reform today, we wouldn't even try to execute it if we wouldn't have the support of the members, because it is really because it demands work and personal engagement, and it can be exhausting. So we are not enforcing the ideas, but always searching for consent from all the members that form Iskra.
Okay, now maybe if you have any questions about this current structure, because I will now describe the new one, the one that we are trying that we are proposing. So is this one clear?
Or if there are any other questions in this part? So that, I mean, it's maybe if I rushed some things too much because.
No, I think it's quite explicit because basically in other countries I think it's the same situation regarding student unions and how they interact with students. You know, so, well, at least for Romania, I couldn't have described it better.
This is like totally new for me, and I'm just curious who appoints these bodies, like it's the university administration or
Sorry?
like who appoints these bodies? No, not like
This one.
no like other organs. Yeah.
The student parliaments appoints all of them. Appoints the electoral commission, the prosecution, the first degree court, and the presidency.
And also Supreme Court.
No, Supreme Court is, I mean, its members are
Appointed.
no, they're not appointed, suggested by a mentor of this court, which is a professor at the Faculty of Law. So they are law students, and he kind of suggests the best, and then the parliament only has to confirm them. So this one is actually the only organ that is
Autonomous.
independent. Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
So that body has not any like role to stop the corruption doing by the Supreme Parliament.
Actually, I mean, you have the prosecution which should investigate the corruption and all the irregularities, but it's appointed by the parliament, so it doesn't do that regularly. And then you have the Senate, which is the first degree court, so it makes decisions about the
Guilds.
yeah. Okay. So if you are prosecuted and the Senate says you're guilty, then you can
Appeal.
Actually be accused, but
then you get to the higher court. I mean, it's just for the exceptional cases.
Okay.
but usually it never even comes to this point, the prosecution. So it's just
Okay.
Maybe another thing to point out is that we perceive this problem of corruption not as a problem of a few people that are dealing with it or that are corruptive and that have low morale, but we perceive it as a system problem. And it's also the same on a higher level of politics, on a state politics. So yeah, we'll try to change the system, not to change the people.
Yeah.
And also, I would just like to add something, because when I talk about this budget, you also have to know that there are several projects that go on for years, like student radio, that go on for 44 years. And the problem is that each year they don't know whether they're going to have enough finances or not, because it's just the question of whether it will be politically more wise to give them more or less. So, you know, also there's like a student counseling institution that gives like also free advice on a matter of law and any other student issues, but each year, you know, they don't know whether they will get the finances or not, because it's just, they don't have fixed funding, but it depends on each year how the current government will decide if they will give them this much or that much, and they're just kind of, lobbying. Yeah.
There is also another fun fact about our student organization, that the president of our student organization wage is higher than the wage of the president of the state.
Yeah.
So the president, director.
Correct.
A director,
You also
director.
have a director who is there just to be financially responsible for transactions, illegal transactions. But yeah, he has a higher.
Yeah, well, just a quick funny fact, in Romania everyone's paid better than the president. Literally anyone.
Okay, so
Just to add to your I mean, when you're talking about student radio, right now we have a problem because it's an alternative radio, and at the moment we have some conservative groups in the parliament and they try to abolish it. So even though it has 44 years existence.
Oh, but okay, we can stay if we commercialize. If we have more commercials and more fun topics. So, that.
Revolution doesn't sell.
Okay, so this idea of reforming this organization has been with Iskra since we formed. But now this summer it has ripened, and we've written a new statute of the organization, which is the higher legal act, is above all others, in which we have put all our structural reforms, and we are putting it to a referendum in November, so the students will decide whether they want it or not. So I will also divide this in two parts. The first will be just a technical presentation of the new system. So if you have any questions, if I'm not clear enough, you can stop me. And then the other part will be the idea behind it, why we're doing it. There. Now you have this on faculties. You have local student organizations. Put any political fight, doesn't have any political ideas. The only thing they're doing are those extracurricular activities, and so the projects are a way of a campaign for them, because in the next election they will play on that
Card.
on that card. So what we're proposing is that on the faculties we would make assemblies. And every student of the faculty would automatically be a member of the assembly. So every decision on the local level would be decided on democratically in the most open way possible. And one of the most important decisions, I believe, is the distribution of finances for the projects. So we've created a way of participatory budget, so that everyone can come and propose their projects, and people will vote if it's okay, if they want it, if they don't want it, or if maybe they would just they're not prepared to give so much funds, or So the budget is one important thing, and then the other is that these assemblies would serve as a platform for discussion about all the political and other decisions of the whole organization, so that students would know like what is happening, because now they're completely disconnected from the organization. The assemblies also have some other powers, which I will return to later. So then here you still have the student parliament, because the point is, I forgot to mention, we are trying to close the gap between the organization and the students, and we're trying to do it mainly by three principles. First is democratization, which is carried out through these assemblies. The second is politicization, so that people will know what the organization is fighting for, what it should be fighting for. And the third is transparency, which kind of gives legitimacy. So we have the most open possible democracy on the local level, but still for a successful fight we believe you have to have a political leadership. And the difference we've made with the current organization is that in the current organization the people who are elected in the local organizations also become members of parliament. As Clara said, with no clear political ideas, just with ideas about local projects. So what we've done is we've combined all the faculties, all the students in one, how to say, electoral body. And for the student parliament, in all the faculties, people would vote for the same lists. So you would have lists that would candidate for the parliament, and it doesn't matter on which faculty you are, you would have the same choice. So you don't elect a representative of your own faculty, which people tend to vote for the most popular person, but you vote for someone you maybe even don't know. So
Based on?
yeah, based on more based on political beliefs. I mean, these groups will have to identify somehow. Now they identify with the popular people, and then they will have to have some program, something to present to the voters. So we hope to kind of centralize political ideas in some lists. Then we have the presidency. It stays actually the same as it is now. Also has minutes.